Hi, I'm Mel Clarke, Customer Services Director in Operations at Highways England, and welcome to our discussion, which will focus on how Highways England plans to make our vehicle fleet greener, switch to zero-emission vehicles, helping tackle air and climate emissions, and resulting in green transport revolution. And also how we're working in partnership with a local council with a scheme operating under our designated funds, offering to support business to switch to electric vans in urban environments. I'd now like to introduce our guests and ask each of them to explain their role. So first, Martin Edgecox, welcome.
Hi Mel, great to be here. I'm Martin Edgecox, I'm the National Fleet Manager for Highways England.
Welcome Martin. And Chris Plumb?
Thanks Mel. Yes, I'm the Air Quality Fund Lead at Highways England, and I've been working with authorities on Try Before You Buy schemes.
Thank you, Chris. Welcome to the panel. And Gill Nowell.
Thanks very much, Mel. I'm Gill Nowell, and I work for a company called Electrolink on data-driven solutions to support electric vehicle uptake. However, I'm here today in my capacity as a Director of Electric Vehicle Association England.
Welcome, Gill. And last but not least, Peter Saunders.
Yeah, I'm a Senior Transport Planner at Nottingham City Council and delivering the electric van experience for the authority.
Thank you, Peter. Welcome. Did you know that in 2019, the UK was the third largest market for ultra-low emission vehicles in Europe and is a global leader in their development and manufacture? From individual drivers to large business fleets, taxi drivers and bus operators to city and local authorities, increasing numbers are now switching to zero-emission vehicles, helping tackle air and climate emissions. Today, our conversation will focus on what Highways England is doing to play its part. So first, I'd like to turn to Martin. Martin, can you begin by explaining what vehicles make up our fleet and the range of tasks they undertake?
Yeah, thanks Mel. Highways England has a large and diverse fleet of around 1,000 vehicles. And this is made up of around 270 traffic officer vehicles, 500 winter fleet vehicles, and 200 asset delivery inspector and pool car vehicles. We'll be shortly adding around 100 company car personal user vehicles to our national fleet too. The fleet fulfills a number of safety critical functions across the strategic road network, and vehicle torque and pulling power is critical to carry out the work safely with efficacy. Our TO vehicles are a diverse range from a number of different manufacturers, including Mitsubishi, JLR, and we'll shortly be bringing Volvo and BMW onto that fleet too. And our winter fleet gritters help Highways England meet its statutory duties of clearing and treating the network during the winter season.
Thank you, Martin, for talking us through what we currently have on fleet at Highways England. Can you explain the part Highways England is playing in the government's Road to Zero strategy?
Yeah, so Highways England is fully committed to meeting what is an important target for government and Highways England and the country as a whole. And work commenced really in 2019 to identify ultra-low emission vehicle alternatives for the national fleet. And some are now already in operation across our regions. As a result, we're well on the way to meeting the 25% target in 2022. And a fleet roadmap and purchasing strategy clearly articulates our aspirations in achieving the 100% car fleet compliance target by 2024.
So Martin, no doubt there are challenges and assumptions for us as a company to meet the Road to Zero strategy. Could you elaborate further?
So our statutory responsibilities mean it's not possible for us to consider downsizing our fleet. We have both traffic officer and winter fleet vehicles that mean we have a duty to manage the strategic road network and DFT targets. The key issues for Highways England really emanate from the EV market itself. It's evolving, but it doesn't yet fully support our business operating model. Similarly, the charging infrastructure doesn't really support our operating model as well, and that is something that we're working on to facilitate. So the real key is to identify a zero-emission vehicle that will have the ability to carry, operate, and tow or clear vehicles for the business. In terms of winter fleet vehicles, whilst they're Euro 6 compliant, these are diesel units. and at present there are no viable options in the market to replace these vehicles. Work continues within the industry to identify appropriate low emission solutions for winter vehicles, but it's fair to say work is still in its infancy. As a result, the company will be working with its winter fleet gritter supplier to trial stop-start technology on a sample of the fleet.
And finally for you, Martin, what are the next steps Highways England will be taking to make our vehicle fleet greener?
So it's important to stress that we are committed as a company to meeting the DFT Road to Zero targets and also supporting the corporate carbon project internally. And we'll continue to work closely with our internal procurement colleagues, government buying frameworks and the manufacturers to identify and embed what is the most efficient vehicle available for our fleet. We'll also respond to the company needs. You know, as operational requirements are enhanced and change, that will necessitate a change in vehicle type, and we will respond accordingly. And finally, we'll work and continue to work with manufacturers on the proof of concept vehicle prior to any purchase. This ensures we both manage public resources efficiently and responsibly, but we also procure vehicles that really enhance our capabilities.
Thank you, Martin. So I want to turn to you now, Chris. So we're committed to improving the quality of air focused on nitrogen dioxide, and we recognise that zero emission vehicles are the ultimate solution to both clean air and a sustainable road network. Can you explain why van use is attracting our attention?
Yeah, sure. So vans have increased more than any other class of vehicle on our network, certainly over the last couple of decades. So there's an awful lot of them on the network. They're virtually all diesel fueled, and they're the vehicles that are contributing to the nitrogen dioxide pollution. And moreover, they're actually disproportionately polluting. So 33% of the oxides of nitrogen pollution comes from those vans, and yet they're only 16% of the fleet. But importantly, there are some fantastic zero emission at the tailpipe alternatives available, and they're absolutely viable for many. But also, most of the vans are operated by businesses. We'll likely find it easier to work with businesses rather than the private motorist. If we can convince a fleet manager that these vehicles work for them, hopefully they'll go on to buy several rather than just the one, and that'll help improve our outcome.
That's really interesting, Chris. So I understand Highways England's commissioned research with the Energy Saving Trust to see how we could influence the take-up of electric vans. What happened here?
Yeah, that's right. We wanted to understand what the barriers were that were hampering the uptake of these vans on our network. And the Energy Saving Trust were ideally placed to help us understand those reasons. The Trust confirmed that electric vans will actually sell themselves if only we can get people into them. They are, after all, a great drive, they're quiet, they're easy to maintain, and a fraction of the cost of fuel. So their key recommendations from this research was that we should try and find a way to do a try before you buy scheme. So try for free for up to 2 months with some expert support on hand to help participants get the best out of the vehicles. What better way for businesses to work out whether these vehicles work for them than actually trying them for 2 months. We also were clear that even though the electric vans are slightly more expensive, we expect that most businesses will be able to save money, make whole life cost savings, and that's what's in it for them to make the switch. So a total cost of ownership report will make those savings clear.
Thanks, Chris. There's some real advantages for businesses to move towards electric vehicles. So how did our designated funds come to play its part, and how's that led to the try before you buy schemes?
Our designated fund programme was extra capital funding that we got from government to help us go beyond business as usual. So to be able to do all those nice to haves that we'd historically wanted to do but didn't have the funding for. One of those funds was the Air Quality Designated Fund that was specifically ring-fenced to tackle the nitrogen dioxide pollution on our network to deliver cleaner air for our neighbours. That fund wasn't without its challenges, although because there was no clear solution to delivering cleaner air. Obviously, cleaner zero-emission vehicles are the ultimate solution, but as a network operator, we were unsure what we could do about that. But as a result of that air quality designated funding, that helped us undertake an extensive programme of research, including the work with the Energy Saving Trust. That helped us find a way forward. But even though we knew what we needed to do to get more of these vehicles on the network, it was not something we could do alone. And that was because our ring-fence funding was capital. That's great for building things and buying things, but not great for promoting and operating try before you buy schemes. So that's when we needed to reach out to partners, especially local authorities, to try and get some help with this. And this was absolutely in line with our air quality strategy that makes clear we would deliver the best results by working in partnership with others.
Thanks, Chris. That is really interesting. So how did we go about finding partners to work with?
Yeah, so we targeted our efforts to those parts of the network where the air is still not clean, and we needed to work harder to reduce the pollution. This is often where our network passes through the cities. And by reaching out to those authorities, they were actually working to achieve the same as well. We initially had some success with Leeds City Council, and we granted them £1.9 million in April 2019, and they committed to invest the essential resource, almost £1 million themselves, to make a success of this project. Their Try Before You Buy scheme launched in January 2020, and despite a pause for COVID-19, we've already convinced some businesses to make the switch, which is great news. And then following Leeds, we've contracted with Nottingham City Council, Coventry City Council, Kent County Council. They already have their schemes up and running. And Sheffield City Council too are planning to launch theirs in the next few months. And recently we've contracted with Bristol City Council for a scheme down there too. So to date we've invested £12.5 million in these kind of schemes thanks to that air quality designated funding. And depending on the number of demonstrator vehicles available in each centre, which is often up to 70, we're hoping that businesses will go on to buy up to 500 vehicles of their own. And it's with numbers like that will help contribute to cleaner air and support us on that road to zero carbon. So it has been really great working with the councils on these exciting projects.
Thanks, Chris. They really do sound like exciting projects, and actually that the investment will start to make that difference. So I want to turn now to Peter. Was it easy developing a bid for this type of scheme?
I think some of the key issues really kind of revolve around the fact that both organisations, local authorities and Highways England, have very similar aims. So it was an opportunity for us to look at those aims and put the bid in. For example, Nottingham has strong political leadership wanting to prioritise improving air quality. And we've also, as a council, set a target to become carbon neutral as a city by 2028. So these strategic aims are tied in well when making the application to Highways England. Nottingham has had previous experience running what we call then the ultra-low emission vehicle experience with government's Go Ultra Low funding. We had 10 vehicles, and across a couple of years we were able to introduce 75 loans across 41 organisations, which did result in 30 permanent switches to the partner organisation Drive Electric that we were involved in at the time. So that was a good baseline really to springboard the electric van experience with. Based on the experience, we did understand what we could achieve with the capital grant by procuring 50 electric vans. We've got good local contacts with the businesses and organisations we've developed with in the past, which is a good fit really for the application, and we've got the expertise that we can communicate locally to get these services off the ground. And I think it's great as part of the bid that we have the opportunity to lock in those clean air and environmental benefits, because all that highways investment will continue to reap environmental and air quality rewards at project end in 2 years' time, as the council will be able to embed these vehicles into its own services or those of our partners such as Nottingham City Homes. And after contract being awarded in mid-2020, it's now just a case of the council using its local position and networks to make it happen, which we're working hard now to do to encourage more businesses and organisations to transition.
Thank you, Peter. It's really great to hear the progress we're making in this area. I understand telematics are used to build the business case. What does that involve?
You're right there. Telematics are important. It really helps a business understand how an electric van can integrate into its operations and duty cycles. That telematics provides data that will demonstrate to the customer which journeys are feasible in an electric van and help the business understand that a day's duty cycles can be carried out using electric, highlighting that relationship, because it's an important one, between the electric vehicle charging of the battery and how this can be used effectively to ensure that the vehicle works to capacity. It also puts figures on what the maintenance and fuel savings would be over the whole life of that vehicle and the carbon and air pollution savings. So businesses can build their confidence in the new technology when trialling an electric van through our service.
That's great, Peter. I wouldn't mind getting into a bit more of the detail here. So what types of vehicle are available? What sort of progress have we made today? And are we starting to already realise any of the benefits?
Yeah, good question. The electric van experience is directly managed by the council. So we put in orders for 50 electric vans with a wide range of vans that are going to be a good fit, we hope, to the various applications that businesses and organisations find that they need to use them for. The electric van experience fleet will include 20 light vans, which, the traditional Nissan ENV200, the Renault Kangoo, and a new player on the market, the Maxus eDeliver 3. We wanted to also expand the kind of styles and types of vehicle that businesses could experiment with in their services. So we're putting 25 medium vans in there, which again is the Maxus, but a larger vehicle, the eDeliver 9 with a longer wheelbase, the Renault Masters, and some of those Maxus we wanted to convert to different applications. And again, we are stretching the service, we like to think, by adding a couple of, or a few, larger vehicles, which would be a couple of minibuses, because there is a demand out there that we've discovered, and the Isuzu 7.5 ton box van with tail lift, because they are more expensive, yes, but once they get into businesses and they can start to understand the savings that they can make, they will be attractive offers, particularly as we've got targets to meet in terms of air quality and carbon. As part of the service, we provide unlimited mileage, comprehensive insurance, handovers when they collect the vehicle, and recovery support if required. A fully funded EV charging point is also included as part of that, so they can participate and charge at their business location. We'll offer it to any size of business, public or voluntary sector, in Nottingham can participate. A few vehicles, as local authorities work together, we've got some good contacts with Derby City Council, and a few vehicles will be made available to Derby businesses through their Derby Connected scheme as well. So we publicly launched on the November the 20th last year, and we had an overwhelming response, really. We had almost an immediate 80 expressions of interest, and we've handed over the first vans just a few weeks ago. So we are at the very nub end, very much at the start of the electric van rollout and journey in Nottingham.
Thank you, Peter. It's really exciting to hear about the energy and interest that's sort of building behind this. So I kind of want to turn to both you and to Chris to sort of reflect on the next steps for Highways England and for Nottingham City Council.
Well, I think from my perspective and a local authority's perspective, using those telematics to provide that whole life ownership information, helping businesses understand the benefits of switching and the operational benefits of electric vans, the reduced maintenance and fuel costs are important, and the environmental improvements we want to be able to make them aware of. We need to, going forward, monitor those outcomes. We are in the business now encouraging businesses and organisations to make that transition and to take those next steps. So we want to monitor that the investment that Highways England has made is going to be a success, and overcome some of the interesting challenges that we've had in developing this project. So telematics and data protection and data impact assessments have been quite a quandary we've had to get through, but we are very close to sorting that now. And finding a more cost-competitive insurance policy going forward to actually make the service, from our perspective, a more cost-effective option, I think are the two key things we're going to have to focus on in the future.
Okay, thanks, Peter. And for me, it's about continuing to support those cities that are working to launch their Try Before You Buy schemes. We want to help them shout about that. And later in the year, I want to start assessing the benefits to confirm that we're achieving what we set out to do. And knowing that we're achieving that will help make the case to invest more money in this. And I know other authorities are interested in working with us.
Thanks, Chris and Peter, for setting out what appears to be the start of a roadmap for delivering this. So I want to turn to Gill now. So Gill, from your perspective, what has your organisation been hearing from the van community regarding NO2 pollution?
EVA England supports both current and prospective EV drivers across the increasingly wide range of electric cars and electric vans available on the market. There's a strong drive towards the net zero agenda, and of course we know that, as Chris said earlier, vans are responsible for over 30% of nitrous dioxide emissions in cities, so we need to do something, we need to act quickly. It's encouraging then to see that under the Global Action Plan, 45 organisations have signed up to commit to zero emission under the Clean Van Commitment, some by as early as 2025. We know that the clean air imperative is a critical reason for us to move to zero tailpipe emission transport. However, on a day-to-day basis for drivers, what we are hearing is that other factors are really important as well. So at EVA England, we're hearing that electric van users are talking about a better way of driving. Mental health needs are high on the agenda, not least of all in these times of pandemic. So in that regard, in terms of mental health, electric vans are easier to drive, they are quieter, they are smoother, and they offer an altogether less stressful drive experience. As one electric van driver put it, they are a pleasant place to be. And also, some companies are citing as much as a 60% reduction on maintenance and downtime costs. Fuel costs as well, so it costs about 1/3 in terms of electricity to power an electric van as opposed to diesel. So the costs, as you can see, really stack up quite rapidly.
Thanks, Gill. I think it's really interesting that, as well as the sort of obvious efficiency savings, there's a well-being aspect to it that I'd probably not thought about before you just shared that with us. Can I ask how you became involved or aware of our Van Excellence scheme, and what are your views about our efforts in this area?
I worked with Chris and his team on a blog piece for EVA England, and I was really impressed with the partnership approach adopted by the organisation, working on the Try Before You Buy scheme with local authorities. Really interesting to hear about, and the fact that it was underpinned by really robust research with the Energy Saving Trust, just made it a really viable approach to take, I think. And it demonstrates, I think, that Highways England is serious in making a material difference in terms of improving local air quality through supporting the transition to electric vans.
Thanks, Gill, and it's really good to hear. So is there an awareness of or a demand for more organisations to try Before You Buy scheme, or is the perception that Highways England is leading the way in this area?
I'd be very surprised if there wasn't a great deal of interest and demand for rolling out more Try Before You Buy schemes across the country. My own personal experience of being involved in many community EV test drives over the years leads me to believe that actually getting people into an EV is a surefire way of igniting their interest in making a permanent switch to electric transport. EVA England is certainly really happy to continue to raise awareness of the Highways England scheme. And recently, in speaking with a very well-known electric van specialist, Paul Kirby, he was very aware of and impressed by the Highways England scheme. So the message is certainly getting out there.
Thank you, Jill. Have you been offering guidance to other users of our strategic road network as to how they can play their part in making travelling greener?
Yes, absolutely, Mel. So EVA England recently launched a survey on the consumer experience of public electric vehicle charging, which will feed directly into the government consultation on public charging. We recognise that we need to work together with EV drivers and partner organisations such as Highways England to ensure that public charging is reliable, that it's accessible, and that there is enough of it and in the right locations. We've also recently opened to members, and we're all about offering a voice to EV drivers to ensure that people can make the switch to zero tailpipe emission driving as smoothly and as easily as possible. There's loads of resources available on the EVA England website if anybody wants to have a look. And we've got some really exciting membership benefits at the moment as well. Going forward, we are intending to work strategically to support local authorities in facilitating mass uptake of EVs as well.
Okay, so thank you, Jill. Before I ask panel members for their closing thoughts, I'd like to update you about Highways England's proposal to reduce its carbon. So in 2016, the government signed into law a provision to bring all greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by 2050. In order to support government to achieve this, Highways England are proposing a carbon KPI in the roads investment period, and also recognising there are clear benefits to reducing carbon emissions in terms of becoming more energy and resource efficient organisation. The metric measures total amount of tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalents from Highways England's activities. The carbon footprint covers the government's activities under the three scopes as defined by the Greenhouse Gas Protocol. So all direct greenhouse gas emissions from gas consumption in office and control centres and traffic officer vehicle fuel and diesel consumption, from indirect greenhouse gas emissions from consumption of purchased electricity in our offices and control rooms, and also on our network through roadside lighting and equipment, depots and outstations. And then finally, other indirect emissions as well, so staff, business travel costs, hire and grey fleet, rail, air, bus and taxi travel. So I'm now going to ask the panel for their closing thoughts, and I shall start with Jill. Jill, any closing thoughts?
Thank you, Mel. There's no doubt, I don't think, that we are in the midst of a mass transition to electric vehicles. We will no longer be able to buy a new petrol or diesel car or van come 2030. And at EVA England, we'd urge anyone thinking about buying a new or second-hand car or van just to make sure that it has a plug.
Thank you, Jill. And Peter, your last thoughts, please.
I think from a local authority's perspective, a lot of councils are well placed to provide the front-facing services that can encourage and persuade and demonstrate, by example to businesses and organisations, the way to transition to electric vans and other forms of sustainable transport options. And as Jill highlighted earlier, the demand for EVs and services to experience electric vans and other types of vehicle is only going to grow. There is demand already for this from our county neighbours, particularly Derbyshire County. So if there is any more capital resource for the future, and £12.5 million is quite a significant investment that the Highways England have made already, but if there is any more in the future, we've had positive conversations that can support other councils around us.
That's great. Thank you, Peter. And Martin?
Yeah, final thought, Mel. It's fair to say that the pandemic probably put on hold what we wanted to do with our EV strategy slightly, but we're moving out of that now. And that wasn't just for Highways England, that was industry-wide across the automotive industry. So it's fortunate we've made good progress along towards the 2022 target and the 2024 target. we don't, we're not complacent. We do have our eye on the 2030 target, and we will continue to purchase and evolve the fleet to meet that target, and to ensure that the DFT Road to Zero targets are also met. So it's exciting times in Highways England, particularly as the fleet evolves.
Great, thank you, Martin. And Chris, any final reflections?
Yeah, I think it's great that Highways England has been able to invest our air quality designated funding in these kind of schemes, seeking to accelerate the uptake of zero emission vans for cleaner air and a lower carbon future. It's fantastic that local authorities have been able to contribute the revenue funding to help make this happen. So this is not something we could have done alone, so really grateful to them. And I'm also really looking forward to understanding what a difference this has made and seeing if there's a case to invest further. As Peter says, there's real demand, and I'm sure Nottingham would want some more funding if we can make it available.
Great, thank you, Chris. Exciting times and some great progress, but this is just the start for Highways England, and our net zero carbon strategy will be published this year. So we're really looking forward to collaborating with other organisations regarding issues that impact our environment. I'd just like to close the conversation now by thanking you, the audience, for watching. We hope you found the conversation informative. Further information can be found following the websites displayed on your screen. And I'd just like to thank our panel again for participating in today's discussion.